All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Trench Talk. And today we're joined by Derek Dennis. Now, Derek has been around almost every league you can think of, from NFL to AFL, CFL, even joined the XFL for that little bit of period. So, again, thanks, Derek, for coming on today.
Oh yeah, I appreciate you for having me, man.
Yeah, of course. So, we did talk about all these leagues that you've been in, most recently with the Stamps, and then you were with the New York Guardians.
Yeah,
Cool. And then so right now you're a free agent. Now, obviously, with the free agent market being very odd, I guess is a good way to put it, with the whole COVID situation. What's it
yeah.
been on your end with free agency with these kind of unknown times?
I mean, right now it's kind of been dead. I don't think anybody really right now is guys going to come in on rookie deal, price veteran. So the money that comes with signing me,
Hmm.
just I don't think teams have it or are willing to spend it just now. So right now I'm just kind of in limbo. Right now it's just pretty slow, man. I'm not really getting too many phone calls. A lot of it has to do with me being a high price free agent and the price tag that comes with signing a guy with my resume. Right now, you still see signings, but it's mostly rookies, guys who are playing on entry level deals and they're not very expensive. So because I'm a higher price guy right now, it's just kind of wait and see. It's going to be more of a, if season gets underway and injuries happen or, or they need someone to come in and kind of help, solidify things, and I'll probably get a phone call then. But right now, I don't think it's going to be a mass rush to sign me just because, like I said, I come with a high price tag.
If you are in this kind of waiting game for getting in on some team in the future, what are you doing right now to stay prepared? Is there anyone that you're talking to about what you should be doing right now, or that they know what's actually even going to happen?
I mean, right now for me, it's probably more of a just trying to stay ready, stay ready for a phone call if it does come. Um, I mean, life right now is a little crazy for the sporting world just because of COVID-19 and what's going on.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows? Who knows if anybody get a chance to play football this year? Who knows if everybody has to wait for 2021? I think the only leagues that are probably have a legit shot of getting sports up and running sooner before 2021 would probably be like the major leagues, like NFL,
Yeah.
NBA, like the people who have the capital to kind of, put all their players in a hub city and pay for, testing and all that other stuff. I think for a league like the CFL and other leagues, that's probably a price tag that they probably just not willing to, kind of pay. I think
Yeah.
a cancel season will probably be cheaper than trying to get guys to come in and play. So honestly, it's no one really knows what's going to happen. Just enjoying right now being a dad and being home with my family and just getting the time off that I probably normally wouldn't get. Normally around this time, if I was on the team or other guys would be in training camp or getting ready for the season right now. So this is just time home that a lot of guys don't get. Just trying to take advantage of just being able to spend time with my kids and my wife and enjoy that.
Yeah. So then, you've moved around a lot. You're from New York, but you've played in multiple different cities for NFL and CFL at this point. Where did you create your home base now? Where do you reside?
I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. So basically, when I came out here to play arena ball with the Rattlers, I kind of liked it. I enjoyed it. Just being able to live in a warm climate and not have to worry about the cold anymore. I've played in a
Yeah.
lot of cold places. I'm from New York, so this is just it's been my home base probably for the last 4 years. So I'm in Phoenix right now. But yeah, I've been everywhere.
Yeah, you've definitely been around. So yeah, let's go back. Like you said, you're from New York. You went to your high school there, and then while you're in high school, you did a lot of different sports: basketball, football. What made you choose to stick with football instead of continuing your time in basketball?
Honestly, I kind of went the football route just because that's what everybody was telling me. I only
Yeah,
played maybe like a year of high school football. Like it wasn't a lot of guys played the game at the age of 6 and up.
yeah,
I started playing my senior year of high school, and it was just kind of to pass the time until basketball season. Basketball was my first love. That was my first sport. That
yeah,
was the game that I put a lot of time and effort into growing up. And I had Division I basketball offers. I was a pretty good basketball player in high school. I played with a lot of guys that end up going to the NBA or playing professional ball season. A lot of my boys I grew up with. So basketball kind of was my sport, but
hmm
like the fact that I was just a big kid and I was, agile and able to move and all that type of stuff. People would always tell me like football's the thing for you. And my prep school coach, Dave Karate, was kind of like the last like decider when I went to prep school for my senior year of high school and playing prep ball. And he was kind of just in my ear every day, like, listen, I've had guys come here to the school who thought they were basketball guys, big
Yeah.
basketball guys. They ended up going on to the NFL. So that's kind of just, after talking to my coach and talking to my parents and just, weighing pros and cons of if I did either or. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, if I would have stuck with basketball, I'd probably be playing overseas right now or something like that. I think I was good enough to do that. Yeah, I decided to take a football scholarship from Temple. I had about like 5 or 6 schools actually offer me to play both sports.
Yeah.
And I just decided to stick with football, and that's where I'm at today.
Cool. So what's that actually the difference between playing high school and playing prep? Because I do know of a couple kids that were when they were starting to take sports more seriously in their last 2 years of high school, they went to prep schools. What's the difference in competition level
Yeah.
or even just your day to day?
The competition level is a little tougher. You're playing against like guys who are older. Like in the high school sense, you're going to be playing against, kids your age of your age group and your strength level. But when you go to like certain prep schools, you'll play like, college intramural squads. You'll play, guys who are 18, 19 years old, kind of have more of a developed body and strength and stuff. And just the overall atmosphere of prep school just prepares you for college. Like, I always tell people going to prep school was like, it wasn't about the sports for me. It was more about the other things. Like I wanted to
Yeah.
go to college, because I was the first person in my family to go to college. So I wanted to do something that was going to prepare me for college, because I didn't have anybody to tell me like, what to expect, how college life was going to be, how to handle it, playing sports and going to school.
Mhm.
So that's what I went to prep school for, because I stayed on campus. So same thing you do when you go to college, stay on campus, go to classes on campus, eat on campus. Everything you do is like basically that. I wasn't living at home. I wasn't able to go home after school and, do work, study hall, all that stuff that you have to do when you're a Division I college athlete and you go off to school. So that's what I thought prep school prepared me for, you know, for college. So that's
Yeah.
what I used it for. But the sports stuff was good too, because you played against guys who are, you have what they call postgraduates, so guys who already graduated high school, but they still are playing, high school level stuff, and they're not using their college eligibility just yet because they decided to take an extra year or two to get ready
Yeah.
for college. So that's just where the competition level difference is, that you got guys who are a little older, a little stronger, a little faster than what they're normally accustomed to playing to if you were playing, regular high school ball.
That's one thing I never thought of is like, yeah, the amount that going to prep school actually prepares you for college being the next step. So then, what was that step like for you where you transitioned into, you picked football as going to be your full time playing guard at Temple University? What was that transition like?
It was cool, man. It was a rough transition, to be honest. Even though I did do year prep, college ball is just it's just a different animal in terms of the amount of time that you have to put in, and then also balance, school and going to class, being a full time student and being a full time athlete. It just the schedule was just crazy, man. It was wake up at 4 a.m., go to bed at 11 p.m. and do it every day for 365 days a year. So I think my freshman year was it was a hard transition. My first like 6 months, man, I had a hard time trying to figure out balancing, becoming a better football player and putting a lot of time and extra time into football, but then also having to put the time into my studies and keep up with school. And a lot of guys, that's where a lot of guys kind of, they don't realize, they think it's just, oh, I got a scholarship, I'll go to school, I'll play ball, saying have fun, do whatever. And it's a lot of work, man. It takes a lot of growing. So my freshman year was like a rough transition, but once we got into like football season and I started to pick things up and start to show that I was a student of the game, things kind of went well for me in my college career. And I started as a freshman and kind of just started every year after that. And it was up and down, but I did enough to get a shot at the NFL.
The one thing I noticed when looking through your high school and your time in university as well is you had like so many good athletes, a lot of different positions. that you were playing under. You were, on the D line, on the O line. I saw even some tight end in there as well, and you were, guard at Temple. But I know also you spent a lot of time as a pro playing tackle. So how are you able to, transition between all these different positions? And like, even, for me, when I played, if I was normally a right tackle and they just had to have me step in at just left tackle, right? Even the same position just flipped, how different it feels on your body when you have your hips in that way. So, how are you able to manage those transitions between all these
Hmm.
different positions?
Yeah, I think just trying to be an athlete, man. I think my basketball background kind of helped me a lot because I was used to moving in multi directions. At the drop of a hat, in a sense. Because if you know the game of basketball, when you play defense, your hips are always swinging in different directions, moving in
Yeah.
different directions. Your feet have to be quick. So I think my basketball background helped me a lot with making those transitions. And I've always been a fast learner. I've always been able to kind of see something and kind of emulate it to learn how to
Yeah.
do it. And that was kind of like my whole career of learning how to play O line. Is I didn't play O line in high school. I didn't play it at a young age. I picked it up as an older age. So the way I learned and the way I got better was I would just watch people who they would say like, "Oh, this guy is doing it right," and then I would just watch him and then just copy exactly what he did, just learn how to do it like that myself. So, um, I would after when I'm not at practice in my room, I would work on my sets, like I would work on my stance so that I got
Yeah.
comfortable with it. So when I got to practice, I didn't have to try to make that transition to try to be comfortable with doing it there on the spot. I did it in my room for an hour the night before, so that way when I got to practice, it didn't feel out of place. And then like memory, it just became memory. So once I got comfortable with doing it a certain way, I would just remember how to do that, and it just
Right.
kept doing it that way. That way, it just stayed consistent. So, yeah, my college career too, it moved me around a lot. Like I never played O line. I played O line maybe my senior season, and that was just out of necessity. My coach, just because of the player I was,
Hmm.
my coach asked me to play O line, and I was like, I never O line because when you play O line, you don't get any glory. You don't get your name in the paper. People don't know, what I'm saying? People don't talk about
Yeah.
you when you play O line. So I wanted people to talk about me, so I never wanted to play O line. But I did it my senior year. I was pretty good at it. Just I was just out there just playing football, man. It became kind of a rush for me to be able to pick up another guy and kind of throw him on the ground, or pick up another man and move from point A to point B. It kind of became kind of like a rush for me. And when I got to college, it was the same thing. Uh, I just kind of, once I learned how to get that rush and that feeling, I
Yeah.
just remembered it, and I just kept doing it, kept doing it. So everything just kind of became muscle memory for me. Started my college career, I started the first couple games, and then I got moved to right guard, and then the next year play left tackle, and then the left tackle center got hurt, and they actually play center, and then we get back to training camp, and then right before training camp, I'm thinking I'm playing center, and then they're telling me I'm going back to left tackle, and then we were getting games like my first 3 years in college, and I literally played every position but center in the game, like every
Each
each
guard,
series
each
I was
tackle.
yeah yeah each series I was changing position. So the first series I started at right tackle, and then the second series they told me to go to right guard, and then the third series they told me to go to left tackle, and then the fourth series they told me to go to left guard, and I was like, in my head it just became so normal because I did it so much in practice that it just became normal to me. Like I just thought I was a utility guy, so I kind of made my bones off of just being a utility lineman, where this. I didn't think of myself as just a guard. I didn't think of myself as just a tackle. I didn't think of myself as just a center. I thought
Yeah.
of myself as an offensive lineman, and I learned everything. That's kind of like what became, my calling card as I got further into my career. Is when I would go to teams, I would study the entire O line. I would learn everybody's job. I never just learned one position and just focused on one position. I learned everything. So then that helped me get a better understanding of the playbook, what the other four guys were doing. Then I knew if I was the right guard, I knew how to do my job. If I knew what the other four guys were doing or what they were looking for. So um, yeah, it just became my calling card because I did it so much through my career and just switching positions that I just kind of learned how to play the game that way.
Yeah. So, you talked about wanting more glory as you don't really get a ton at O-line. And every O-lineman has that dream where they get to go in at tight end or they get to become a fullback one day. Did you ever have one of those where you're kind of curious to see like how far you would have made it as like a tight end or a fullback or any other position that you kind of wish that you had more chance to explore?
Yeah, I always thought in my football career I was going to be a tight end or a defensive lineman. D line I had fun playing with the most just because the like I said, thrill and the rush of being able to hit a man or move a person is what became like my thing. I remember them asking me, it was like, what position you want to play? And I was like, oh, I knew I wasn't fast enough to be a tight end. I mean, I was a good enough athlete, big guy, but I knew I wouldn't be. I would be like a subpar tight end. I didn't think I would be like a, Antonio Gates or one of those guys. Like, so in my mind, I was like, oh, I play D line because I'm strong. I know how to move. I'm for a guy my size. I'm more agile than the average guy who's my size.
Mm.
So D line was what I thought was going to be my calling card. So when I get recruited, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play D line, and they were telling me like, oh yeah, we're gonna let you play D line. They'll let me talk to the D line coach, and then I show up first day of college, and they're like, oh, we're moving you to offensive line. I was like, okay, like it was kind of like the O line thing was just kind of pretty much I was just told by people who knew the game better, knew position. They just told me like, yeah, you're gonna play O line, and I didn't really have a choice. So um, I always thought like woulda, coulda, shoulda. Like maybe if I played D line, what would have happened? But to be honest, I think O line was it for me. I think I was great, a great O lineman. I think I was prototypical. Had the attributes to make me a above average offensive lineman as
Mhm.
opposed to being just an average D lineman. And yeah, so I mean, in the beginning of my career, I thought I always thought woulda, coulda, shoulda. Because in high school, I actually played in a high school all-star game against Anthony Davis. If you
Yeah.
remember, he was a high draft pick for the San Francisco 49ers.
Right.
Best football players from New York versus best football players from Jersey. And I was playing DN against Anthony Davis, and I beat him. I beat him for 2 tackles for loss for a sack. So like after that game, I always thought like, yeah, I'm gonna play D line because he was like the number one O lineman in the state of New Jersey. He was like top 5 O lineman in the country. Like he was a big recruit. So the
Yeah.
fact that I was out there, giving the work, it made me think like, okay, man, I got a future as a D lineman. But when I got to college and they made me play O line, and I just grew to love O line. So once I got to my senior year of college, I never thought about playing anything else. I was just happy to be an O line.
So then, you had a really successful college career. Did you expect to go on draft day?
I did. Actually, going into my senior year, I was the number 2 rated offensive guard, senior offensive guard in the country. So I was projected to be like a late second, early third round pick when I was going into my senior season. And the season before that, I had played left tackle, so I was being projected as a guard in the NFL. I was playing left tackle in college.
Mhm.
But my senior season, it went well. We got a new head coach with that offense with like Tim Tebow, and he coached the Pouncey Twins, and so we kind of ran that same similar offense that Florida was known for when they was winning. When they won a national championship, Tim Tebow, and they had guys like Percy Harvin and the Pouncey Twins and
Yeah.
Aaron Hernandez and those guys. So we pretty much ran that my senior year, but our calling card just became like a power running team. That's all we did. We just ran power. Like I want to say we ran power like 50 times a game, and I was always the guy pulling. So I always pulled. I never did anything else. I just pulled, and then I did play action type of thing. So my senior year, kind of, I think just the overall aspect of scheme and what type of offense we ran, and we played Penn State. We used to play Penn State every year, and Penn State was always like a big game for us. And they always had 3, 4, 5 NFL D linemen on their team,
Mhm.
and yeah, critics try to say I had a bad game against Penn State, which I don't think I did. You know what I mean? When you play against a good football player, it's just the nature of the beast. When you're an O lineman, they expect you to win every rep. So when you lose one rep, then it's like, a D lineman can win one rep and they say, oh, he had a great game. But what about the other, 62 reps where he didn't do anything? It's just the one rep that they talk about that he won. So it was kind of like one of those things where I played a good D lineman. He made one, maybe 2, 3 reps against me in the game. Nothing, nothing that you should bat an eye at. But if you know the game of football, for D lineman, they just got to have 2 pretty good plays, and they had a good game. I mean, you got to be perfect for the entire game, and if you're not, then you had a bad game. So, yeah, I guess the talk around me kind of sputtered, and I made a lot of bad decisions with hiring agents and stuff like that, and the people I was working with when I was coming out. the college that kind of just didn't support me the way they should have. So I ended up going undrafted. But yeah, I got a shot. Actually, I think where I messed up, I wish I knew. If I knew what I knew now back then, probably would have been a little different in terms of my career. But I was just making, like I said, I was making a lot of bad choices with the people that I was working with. Just wasn't really looking at it in the right perspective, and it kind of just backfired on me. But I mean, I still got to kind of just be in the NFL and be around guys and get that experience that a lot of people a lot of guys who play football just don't get. So
Yeah.
I was blessed in that aspect of it. Yeah, I wish I had a longer NFL stuff like that. But I mean, just to even have the opportunity to go there was a blessing for me.
Yeah. So it's actually something I haven't really talked with anyone about yet is having an agent and their purpose and if they're worth it, because you've seen some players negotiate their own contracts. Um, do you see a lot of value behind having an agent with your experience now, or what's your situation like?
I mean, I still have an agent right now. I think now, at least the point in my career now and what's going on, and I know I've learned how to agree contracts and how to negotiate contracts and what's supposed to go into them. So I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure I can do it myself now. And I see a lot of guys now are going towards that route of doing their own contracts and stuff like that, just because you could save that 3% and keep it in your pocket instead of giving it to somebody who could just look over a contract and tell you got the right stuff in it and just sign it. So that's pretty much what an agent does. Like all they do is go over your contract, or they just talk about the terms that's supposed to be in the contract, and then most of them are like have a lawyer background, so they know how to read the verbiage and stuff like that to know
Yeah.
that there's nothing crazy in there. So it's basically an agent is basically like a contract advisor. So once you sign your deal, most agents, you have some agents who go above and beyond and they do other stuff for their players. And then you got some agents who just do the bare minimum. All they do is they look over your contract, they tell you you sign it, and then that's it. And then at the end of the year, they ask for 3%. So I think it's more agents. Agents are important if you got a guy who's going above and beyond and doing extra stuff, getting you endorsements, getting you, talking to have great connections with teams where their buddy is a GM or something, where they can just pick up the phone and text and call that person directly instead of trying to email or talk to a scout and or
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Like those are good agents. Like the Drew Rosen houses, guys who have the GM's number in his phone, and he could call him and talk to him personally. Like if you watch the movie Jerry Maguire, that's kind of really what it's like. Like the good agents are able to go in there and have the number directly to the general manager and talk to him directly. You know what I'm saying? Those are the guys who keep the players on team more frequently. And I've heard situations where guys are getting cut, and the guys who are getting signed is because the GM is a buddy with the agent, and he owes him a favor or something, so he's signing one of his players, type of thing. Like that's
Yeah.
just that's the business world of football that it happens. So that's the positive of having an agent, and yeah, that's the negative, positive and negative of having an agent.
Right. So then, going back to your NFL career, so you signed with the Dolphins. But the one interesting thing about that with me is that season of the Dolphins was featured on Hard Knocks. I was wondering if you could speak to what it's like to kind of having those camera crews around, filming everything, capturing everything for release.
Um, it was actually Hard Knocks was kind of like a blessing for me because I ended up being the very first cutter of the show, and I had no clue, what kind of went into it. That's kind of my first introduction into the business of football, outside of just putting on your pads and lining up and going out there and playing. There's so many other things that goes into the aspect of being a professional football player or professional athlete in general that a lot of guys are they're just not astute to it. So um that was my first like introduction to the business side of football, because
Yeah.
they pretty much kept me around to cut me for the show. So because the team already kind of knew they were going to release me at least a month before we started training camp, and this was after we did OTAs and all this other stuff. They already knew they were going to release me a month before, but they pretty much kept me around so that they could cut me and have some content for the show. So I flew down for training camp. When we was there for OTAs, the cameras wasn't on, and then as soon as I get back from training camp, then now all the cameras are like following me around. They're asking me questions. They walking me to my room. So I thought they were just doing it for everybody. I didn't realize I was pretty much getting set up to get cut. And they have the first 20 minutes of episode 1.
Yeah.
And I remember it was season set 12 or 7. Can't remember. I think it was season 12, episode 1, Dolphins. And that was when they hired Joe Philbin and all that stuff. And the first 20 minutes of episode 1 is me getting cut. And I remember because when it aired, I was in New England in training camp with the Patriots. And I kind of made like a joke, tweeted out like, oh, Hard Knocks comes on tonight. If anybody watches it, let me know if you see me. Because I'm thinking they cut me as soon as I walked through the door when I got to training camp. So I'm not thinking I'm going to be on the show. And then I'm going to find out I was the first 20 minutes. They got me they got footage of me in the GM office getting cut, footage of me going to talk to the coaches. They made me run a conditioning test, and they cut me directly after the conditioning test, which like blew my mind. I'm like, why would you make me run if you knew you was gonna cut me? Like I could have. Yes, that was just the reality of it. And then once I kind of saw what was going on, the show kind of let me know what it was. And Philbin wanted to sign a veteran offensive lineman that he coached. He hadn't coached the guy since college, but the guy played 10 years in the league, and he wanted to sign him. And then they cut me to sign him, and then the dude ended up retiring 2 weeks later. Like it was the craziest thing ever. So, that was what Hard Knocks was for me. But it was, like I said, it was a blessing in disguise because I got a little following and a little fan base out of it. People wanted to see how my pro career went, and they wanted to see where I ended up and how it went for me. So, there's a lot of people that's been fans of me since that day.
Yeah. So, you did move around a good amount in your first year, Patriots, you were with like you said, the Arizona Rattlers at one point, Chicago Bears, Panthers, a whole bunch of different teams. What were the kind of the key takeaways from being in that many different locker rooms?
Just how different personalities mesh, and you could tell what teams are. You could tell the teams that are good. I always compare my time in Calgary to my time in New England. It was kind of the same to me. I always knew that the culture in the locker room, you knew why the team was successful because the culture that was built in that locker room and in that organization was just like, when you come to this team, and not every team has that culture. But I think the most fun locker room that I was ever part of was when I got to Chicago, and I got to be in locker rooms like guys like Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs and Julius Peppers and Peanut Tillman and Matt Forte and Jay Cutler and just those guys, man. It was unreal, man. I remember the first person I met when I got to the locker room was Brian Urlacher, and he used to call me Chef from South Park because I guess I got a deep voice, and the way I talk, he always be like, Chef. He was like, yo, Chef, what's up, man? Like every morning he would come in, he always call me Chef from South Park. It was the funniest thing ever. But they made that locker room like it was fun, man. Like just that little bit of time I got to play under Lovie Smith, like you could tell why guys like playing for Lovey, man. That locker room was it was just bubbly every day, man. Fun. Guys enjoyed coming to work. Guys enjoyed, being around there. And that was probably like the one locker room I've been a part of that felt like a real like brotherly relationship in terms of locker room.
Yeah.
And New England was kind of like that too, but you could tell in New England when you walked through the door it was business. It was about football. It wasn't about football. It had no business being there. So that was like the contrast that I got to see in my first year, like playing pro ball.
Yeah. So then if you're in one of those locker rooms where you really enjoy the atmosphere, is it more led by the Brian Urlachers and the Matt Fortes, or was it more, head up by Lovie Smith?
The locker room was like a safe haven. So a lot of coaches, especially players coaches, they tell, the locker room is a safe haven for the players. Like the players control what goes on in the locker room. You control the environment that goes on there. So having guys like Urlacher and Briggs and them, like they made sure the locker room was a fun place for everyone. Everybody enjoyed being there. Everybody enjoyed spending time with the teams because when you play a sport, man, you spend a lot of time with the guys you play with. You spend more time with them than you probably do your family. So, of course, the relationship that you build with them has to be, paramount in everything because it translates to the field. So that culture that they built in that locker room. It was just fun, man. And guys dancing, guys playing games. Urlock used to get big boxes of like shoes and stuff every week. He would just take all the shoes out and have it filled with all those little styrofoam things. And he would. It used to be a stairway that came out of the locker room, kind of like a bridge overpass that was above the door. He would stand over the door with the box and wait for somebody to walk out and then dump the whole box on top of their head and be like, scream, box him up. Like, it was just stuff like that. That just
Yeah.
made it fun to go to work.
Damn. So, moving on with your pro career, that you finally found a home that you stayed at for a long time in Calgary. What's that adjustment like for, being an American coming to Canada for this first time? You're probably used to the weather a little bit from being from New York, but I'm sure it's still a really big adjustment.
It was a big adjustment in terms of just when I got there the first time I got there at 15, it was wintertime. So if you've never experienced a Canadian winter, man, it was brutal. I've never been in weather that was that cold. But that's probably like the biggest adjustment when I came to Canada, was just learning how to play in extreme cold weather and enjoying it and just having fun with it. Cultural wise, like, I love Canada, man. Canada's a fun place. A lot of the stuff that you hear about it before you get there, it's kind of true. People are just super polite. They're super nice. Even when they're being mean to you, they're still polite, which always blew my mind.
Hmm.
I'm from the city, and everybody in New York is kind of rude because it's a crowded it's a crowded place. Yeah, but yeah, just like I said, being from New York, New York is just it's a big overcrowded. A lot of people are rude. So when I got to Canada, it just saw like just how everybody conducted themselves, just the environment, how mixed it was, and how many cultures and people that you could come in contact with. I loved it, man. It's a different type of vibe that you would normally get, at least for us, U.S. players. And plus, too, you get to see beautiful scenery, like going up the Banff for the first time and seeing the Rocky Mountains and Lake
Yeah.
Louise and all that stuff, man. That's stuff that you normally don't. A lot of people don't get that experience. So, just being able to spend a lot of time in Calgary and get to do some of the stuff and see some of the beautiful scenery and be in that city, man. I loved every minute of it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm from Calgary, so it was cool watching you, and it's really interesting to see when American players come here and the way that they adjust to the cold is always the first one. Moving on, after Calgary, you left there, and then you joined the XFL for the little bit of time that it existed. What were the XFL operations like? From you said you've been in these really good locker rooms where it's all about football, it's all about business, and they have it down to a science. But was the XFL what you expected it to be?
Yeah, it was. It was, man. It was good, man. I enjoyed my little bit. I was only there for about 3 weeks, maybe a month. Um, but it was cool once I got to a team. I think the adjustment with the XFL was that whole team. I think having that team that was just a practice team and kind of how that was constructed, that was a little different for me. Just being a seasoned pro vet and going into kind of like an introductory, setting where it was kind of like they were just trying to teach guys the game of football. Like, guys wasn't coming from, solid backgrounds. That was the adjustment for me. But once I got to New York and I got to play with the Guardians, man, I enjoyed it. It was especially fun for me because, like, I'm from New York. I got to pretty
Yeah.
much play pro football in my own backyard. So, every day after practice, I got to go see my mom and my parents and my sisters, and that's normally stuff that I never got the opportunity to do. So that was the fun part for me. The operations was pretty good. They had really good coaches in XFL, like a lot of coaches with a lot of NFL experience. So you were getting taught, like, essentially felt like being back in the NFL, the structure of things, how practices went, stuff you were learning. It just felt like being back in the NFL again. So I thought it was great. I thought I had a really good shot of being successful and being around for a long time. I don't think anybody foreseen what COVID-19 was going to be coming and what it would become. So I really would have hoped if COVID didn't happen, I would have loved to see what the league became. There's actually a rumor that it's probably coming back next year. So I hope so, man. CFL is assigned me. Maybe I'll get another shot to go back.
Yeah. Yeah, the XFL, some of the games were rough when we were watching the first couple weeks, and it kind of came down to, at least from the fans' perspective, of the team had to have a good quarterback. And you were lucky where you had one of the good ones, because some of them where they didn't quite have the quarterback position figured out. It was a little rough to watch, and you kind of found out very quickly how heavily the game's content relies on that quarterback position.
Yeah, man, that's any pro league. I mean, you think even in the NFL, a team that doesn't have a good quarterback, you're not gonna like watching, the team play because the offense is it's hard to be successful because you don't have that one guy that can get the ball where it needs to be. So having a guy who's smart enough to understand where the ball needs to go and how to get it out and how to relay message to work in unison, that's important. It's just football in general. I think that's probably why you always see quarterbacks get paid so much money, because you don't have that guy who's pretty much to be that coach on the field that can get everybody in the right spot and get them to do the right things. Then, your team struggles to have success. That's why, the Patriots, the biggest cog in the Patriots machine was Tom Brady.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to think like it was the system that made Brady look good, but I mean, I was there. I got to experience it. Tom was generational, man. Like I've never seen a quarterback like that, who to the point where the offensive coordinator was asking him, input on the playbook and route combinations and protections. Like Tom knew the protections better than the O-line. He knew the routes better than the receivers. He knew the running backs track and where to go, and he knew it better than the running backs. That was just the
Yeah.
type of quarterback he was, and you see how successful a organization could be when you got somebody back there who could do those things, and but it's generational. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody's like that. So the teams who get a quarterback who can make the machine go, and then you see that's why those guys get paid so much.
So we're running a little low on time here, but there's a couple topics that we always like to talk about at the end, just to kind of get to know you a little better. So the first one is, you went to school for journalism, and like you were talking about, you want to set yourself up for your life after football. Do you have any plans, ideas of what you'd like to do after football and how your life's gonna look?
To be honest, I don't really know, just because it's kind of changed after my playing career. I always thought I was going to be a broadcaster after I was done playing. So media has always been a passion of mine. I run my own podcast right now called Insights from the Locker Room, where I basically just bring on a bunch of guys that I play with or guys that I've come encounter with in my pro career, and we just talk like how we talk in the locker room. I think a lot of fans like to assume what athletes love to talk about or how we conduct ourselves in the locker room. So I'm just trying to be that guy to give you a sneak peek into the safe haven of the locker room. So that's what I'm doing now. I try to do a lot of media stuff, in terms of just, video. I did stuff with teams. When I would get with teams, I would do my own, interviews to do my own content, stuff like that. That was just something I always did. So media was always something I wanted to do. But I kind of feel like, sports get back up and running and get back to normal. I want to do maybe something with scouting, maybe possibly become a GM one day. If not, man, I'm not opposed to getting into coaching. I got a wealth of football knowledge that I would love to give away to the youth, and hopefully somebody in the next generation could be a better player than I was. So it's a lot of stuff I'd probably love to get my hand in, but we'll see. Maybe I'll start out with high school coaching or something once things get back to normal after COVID. But that's kind of where my mindset is right now.
Awesome. All right, next one. You've played in a bunch of different leagues. I'm sure you have a ton of advice for people trying to get to that next level. What's one piece of advice that you'd like to give to high school, college athletes that are trying to make that next step?
Biggest advice I could give is just work on it every day. My mom used to tell me growing up as a kid, every day that you don't work towards your dream or your goal is a day wasted. So just, if you spend 20, 30 minutes a day just trying to do something that's going to make you better in the long run for what you want to do, I say go for it. If you got a passion, make sure you put all your time and energy into it if you want it to become real, because it's an age-old adage, but hard work, beats 10 any day of the week. So
awesome. All right, last one. So being a lineman, you got to eat a lot of food. It's just part of it to keep up with your caloric intake. If you had to eat one thing for the rest of your life, what's that go-to meal?
Yeah, I'm heavy on the carbs, so pastas and breads and that type of stuff. Anything that has carbs in it is pretty much my go-to. Especially like for me, I'm a massive dude. I'm like 345, 350. So my calorie intake is probably out the roof as opposed to other guys. But if I had to say a food, it'd probably be like a pasta or something.
Any specific sauce, anything like that you always gravitate towards?
Chicken Alfredo.
That's the one.
Chicken Alfredo would probably be my go-to pasta. Yeah, I don't do well with tomato sauce, man. I get bad acid reflux when I have too much tomato sauce. So I have to go with chicken Alfredo.
All right. So we're pretty much out of time, but is there anything else that you'd like to talk about, plug really quick before we wrap up?
Nah, man. I just appreciate you having me on. I got some merch. I got some Bone Crusher merch, available. If anybody wants some of that, I might, get my T-shirt line up and popping again. Once things get back to normal. And only thing I have to plug is my podcast, man. Go listen to my podcast. It's called Insights from the Locker Room. Available on most streaming platforms, mainly on Spotify right now. I'm working on it on iTunes, but you go on YouTube. I got some video content on YouTube, Insights from the Locker Room. So, check out my podcast. Something I got to plug.
And if you ever need any help, Apple Podcasts can be kind of a pain sometimes. So if you got any questions about it, Spotify's way easier to get a podcast on. That's why I did Apple Podcasts first. If you get everything approved for Apple Podcasts, it'll go on Spotify, no problem. It's just a little tough to go the other way.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, let me know. I'm always happy to help out. But again, thanks, Derek, for coming on.
Sure, man. Appreciate you, man.
I really appreciate it. And
man. Thanks for having me, man.
It's all good. Again, thank you for it. All right, man. Peace.
All right, man. Take care.